Workshop in the surface treatment strategies for outdoor painted sculpture at the Getty Conservation Institute. I'm going to share tonight with you some of the details of that workshop and reflect on what I learned and I guess what's with me today. What are the lessons that I still hold dear? Getty's pretty smart about the way it uses its resources. With an endowment of $7 billion, the J. Paul Getty Trust are the wealthiest art institution in the world. The Getty Conservation Institute, which is part of the J. Paul Getty Trust, serves the conservation needs of the Getty Centre and the Getty Villa. The GCI is very well resourced and attracts the best and brightest in the fields of conservation and conservation science. The GCI furthers research in material conservation for the benefit of the cultural heritage of the world. It does this in a pretty selective manner. It directs its attention to areas with the greatest need and the areas in which they can provide the most benefit for their contribution. One area of low-hanging fruit is the conservation of outdoor painted sculpture. The GCI has had an ongoing program designed to address and promote the conservation of outdoor sculpture. I can't say exactly when they started, but the earliest published resource they have is from 2010. Things seem to gain momentum. In 2012, they invited 31 experts to meet at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and this meeting dealt with issues relating to ethics and philosophy, material and technical issues, legal issues, management issues, and communication information exchange issues. Results from this are documented in the meeting report, available from the GCI as a free PDF. And you can see that report there on the left. As a result, in response to the material technical issues raised, the surface treatment strategies for outdoor painted sculpture workshop was proposed. My first encounter with the team from the Getty and their efforts on outdoor painted sculpture were when I attended the AICCM 2016 Los Angeles Congress. This conference was themed Saving the Now, and it aimed to address the deterioration and conservation of modern and contemporary art. The vast majority of the papers at this conference had a philosophical bent to them, with one main exception. A paper titled Coat of Arms, Dovetailing the Needs of Outdoor Sculpture and Military Assets to Develop a More Durable and Adaptable Paint System, had a scientific rigour and a practical clarity that made it stand out. It was authored by a collaborative team from inside and outside the GCI, including John S. Carsaga, US Army Research Laboratory, Abigail Mack Art Conservation, and Rachel Revnick and Tom Lerner from the Getty Conservation Institute. This paper and this project identified problems with paint failure and the limited life of coatings, in particular matte paint used by Alexander Calder in his sculptures from the 1960s and 70s. They developed a methodology for documenting and selecting painted finishes in terms of colour and texture, so texture as in the glossiness or the mateness of the final result. And they designed a paint system whose characteristics, with those characteristics in mind, but were able to incorporate modern paint technology to build a paint with a significantly longer life to it. So these guys, they found a problem in matte paint having a very short lifespan, and they, with the help of the US Army, designed and made a new paint product to address that. I was just absolutely awestruck by this paper, and when the team advertised the workshop the surface treatment strategies for outdoor painted sculpture workshop, I just jumped at the chance. The workshop itself aimed to provide training and a space for discussion that related specifically to the painted finish of these artworks. It had a schedule that included lectures on philosophical and technical issues from experts from the field, several excursions, practical sessions, and treatment case studies. To put a bit of meat on the bone of this schedule, I'm going to flesh it out with some of the interesting things we covered in the workshop, and where I can, provide some reflection on the things I learned. So, to begin with, the instructor team laid out their philosophical stance, and I can summarise that in this way. Essentially, all outdoor painted sculpture will require repainting at some time. The preservation of the original appearance of the sculpture takes priority over the originality of the coating. Stripping and recoating is an acceptable and ethical treatment approach. There's power in such a clear guiding principle, but it's perhaps not as simple as it sounds. With that clarity come some other complications. So responsibilities now might include thorough investigation of the original appearance, which might be sampling and analysis. It might be consulting with foundations, other experts in the field. Something that can be quite an exhaustive and not necessarily successful attempt. Even if you've got a well-based idea in mind about the final appearance of the sculpture, it can be difficult to achieve that. And as well as that, localised or touch-up repairs to damaged painted surfaces should only be used as a short-term option in place of an eventual repaint. The technical lectures and discussion included specification, application and maintenance of various paint systems. We learned about surface preparation, paint selection, interpreting safety data sheets and technical data sheets. We measured film thickness, we undertook pull tests, and particular attention was paid to matching colour and surface texture, or gloss level. We went on 3 excursions. On day 1, we went and inspected the City of Beverly Hills outdoor collection. We assessed the condition of 5 sculptures. We looked at their display methods, and we considered solutions to the problems we encountered. On the left here is World on Its Hind Legs by William Kentridge. That was a brand new installation for the council. And on the right, Sisyphus by Alexander Lieberman. The second excursion on day 3 was a morning spent in the Getty Centre garden. They have 5 painted outdoor sculptures. This sculpture here is The Jousters by Alexander Calder. It was recently repainted by the Getty using the paint that the Getty and the US Army had designed and produced. You can probably make out like the mattness of that paint. You can probably see it quite well on the very left. You've kind of got a bit of a raking look at the black paint on the left there. It's interesting to note though that this treatment wasn't without problems. They encountered imperfections in the paint and problems with the lifespan of that paint. So even the most well-resourced and well thought out treatment still encounters problems. The third excursion was on day 4. We went to a paint applicators workshop that specialised in the painting of artworks. You can see us here in his space beautiful light, beautifully clean workshop this man has. And here's a work by Ellsworth Kelly. It's, I think, painted and is ready for assembly. Here's a couple of sample swatches for, it was a trial for a Jeff Koons work. You can see there it talks about inflatable flower. So this is polished stainless steel, and we've all seen those inflatable works that Jeff Koons produces. Polished stainless steel with several layers of paint over the top. Incredibly precise work. Here's a trial. So this is steel chain, and the painter found a method to coat that chain completely with paint. And the idea with this, the effect they were going for with this work here was to give a thick, kind of plastic, artificial look to the artwork. And he achieved it. So he worked out a method in which he could, by several passes, he could coat the entirety of such a complicated object. We had 2 practical sessions. The first practical session was about correcting imperfections or damage that you might find typically in a newly repainted sculpture. It was really about dealing with blemishes in that surface and addressing that with various abrasive and polishing materials. You can see on the pink on the left, you can see some abrasive marks on that. So, and on this orange, what do I want to call it? Sample. Yep. You can see a paint trick there that you work down just purely by abrasion. So you're putting coarse scratches in there to quickly remove large amounts of paint, and then you polish that scratch out. On the right, you can see where I might have gone a bit too far. Various other kind of imperfections around the place with different methods of dealing with those. The second practical session. Was using techniques to do localised spot repairs to damage, and it was using techniques adapted from the car repair industry. So essentially, these techniques were useful with small areas of damage that were filled, and paint was applied over the top of that using airbrush as a good short-term solution. Something that would hold you over until the next repaint. We've got a similar coupon here, so a bit of aluminium with a painted finish on it, and 4 areas of damage that I've filled. I think I might have milliput on the left, and an American product called A+B epoxy on the right, and using different fill materials. We then applied paint with different levels of mattness to it, to I guess play with the results we were getting. As well as that, there were different ways of masking the area. So essentially, it's not purely in painting here. You're doing a little bit of feathered over painting, and you're finding various ways to mask. So on the right here, you've just cut a hole in a piece of cardboard, and you're using that to kind of provide a feather. That cardboard can sit flush against the object, or it can sit a little bit away, depending on the feather you're after. Also, we played with using latex as a way of masking. Everyone who attended this workshop came prepared with a 3-minute presentation on treatment that they had undertaken relating to outdoor sculpture. Following the examples set by the instructors, we were able to, in an open way, talk about our successes and our difficulties and our failures, And that openness and that honesty meant that we came away with a much deeper understanding of the issues that we ourselves had faced and our colleagues. I won't go into too much detail about what my presentation was about, but the discussion that resulted highlighted for me and the people around me the difficulties of dealing with technical representatives of painting manufacturers and having them understand our clients and our needs as conservators. On reflection, that was probably the most important moment of the workshop for me. It's where I understood that the nature of the learning environment in which you had is crucial. The instructors and the people that had organised this workshop went to really deliberate lengths to ensure an open and honest environment for us to talk in. An environment where respect was found, where participants could talk honestly. There was an atmosphere of trust. They set, in a deliberate way, clear ground rules and described the aims of the workshop. They facilitated discussion and they were active in the social events of the workshop. It's in this environment that discussion flows, and it leads not to consensus but to dissensus. It leads to a friendly environment where people can disagree. And it's that dissensus, those different ideas, where those ideas rub up against each other and create friction. That friction generates a heat that leads to creative and novel problem solving. It's that energy, that's where it comes from, that friction. And that's what I took back to Australia with me. I'd left that workshop with that lesson strongly in mind. The Getty is certainly an impressive institution, and it's got resources and talent to spare. And I was privileged to say that I could participate in the training and discussion. And I've come away with a bigger message, and that's about providing a supportive and inclusive environment, whether that's in the workplace or within the profession more generally. This is the lesson that I've taken with me, that even in such a place as the Getty and amongst such esteemed company, I was able to contribute something.